Athletics. Here's Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is closing in on 7:16, and joining us in studio this morning, head coach of the Roswell Coyote basketball team, Coach Brit Cooper, vice principal and radio personality, Brian Byrd, also joining us in the studio this morning. Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
How you guys doing today?
All doing pretty well.
Yeah, good deal.
Real good.
Well, first off, Coach, congratulations. For those who may have not heard, I gotta read this because it's a very long title. Coach has been awarded the National Federation of State High School Associations National Coach of the Year honors. That's kind of a big deal. I mean, did you even know you're in the running for this, or is it just kind of, hey, guess what, you got this award?
Well, I knew I'd been nominated for it, but when I got the email of the day from Buster Mabry, the executive director of the Coaches Association in New Mexico, I thought it was one of those that was going to say, good job for applying, being nominated, whatever. But
right.
When I actually got it, I was really surprised.
How does that nomination process work? Do you know, Brian, or is it something? Is it like a secret? Someone nominated you. I mean,
yeah, I think there's usually one of those situations where within the Coaches Association, a lot of times with Buster and those guys, they'll nominate coaches that they feel are deserving of awards, especially on that level.
Sure.
So I'm sure it comes more from the Coaches Association, because the federation doesn't send out an email or anything asking for nominations.
Gotcha. So it's all just get like someone recognizes your work and nominates you, and obviously you have a pretty good track record here as a head coach of the Coyotes. A couple state titles there, and playoffs just about every year. So well deserved, obviously. So
I appreciate it. It's one of those that like I've told people that it speaks for the program. It's one of those awards that it may be given to me, but I'm humble enough to understand it took a lot of people to help me to get to that point. Assistants, players, administration, the fans, everybody that's involved with sports at Roswell High School. So, it's a great recognition for the whole program.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's this is something I want to ask you, and this might get way philosophical, but just out of curiosity, what do you think the secret is? I mean, we talk about the support staff, but there's a lot of other coaches that have good support staffs, and they're not having the success you have. I mean, what do you think the key to putting out a good team every year is?
Well, I think that you've got to have discipline in your program. You've got to establish. It didn't happen overnight. I've
Sure.
been here for 22 years, and first 3 or 4 years, could have been easily, if I hadn't had Don Alsop as my athletic director, I could easily have been probably gone. But he stood behind me. I had different principals through the years, and they've all stood behind me. And the administration I have now with Brian and Ruben, and it's a great place to work, and they stand behind you. If you do your job right, good things are going to happen. But I think that Pete Schock from Cliff told me years ago. He's a great, he's retired now, but one of the great coaches in state's history. He told me that if the kids believe they can win,
Sure.
that's 90% of the battle. And I think that we go in every game thinking we're going to win, whether we do it or not. But, the kids, I'm always telling them, you've got to be confident. You can't be cocky. But I think they walk in with a little bit of swagger. And, that's kind of what I used to see from Coach Tasker's teams at Hobbs. You walked in there, you hoped you could play with them. You hoped you could beat them. If you were fortunate enough to do it, we were a couple of times. But, that's kind of what we try to do now. And like I said, there's nights when we don't get it done, but it's not because we don't think we can get it done.
Right. Well, you can't win every game. I mean, that would be pretty tall. Oh, absolutely. But I mean, that's a tall order.
Well, and Coach Cooper, his programs kind of set the bar where people expect every night that they play that there's going to be a win. And,
Sure.
Like you said, there's no lack of confidence in what they're going to be doing.
Well, and the thing about it too is at the end of the day, because the team performs so well night after night, you almost forget these are still student athletes. They're students. They're still learning the game. They're still learning to become adults. And you almost forget that sometimes because they play so well and do so well. And that's off the court too. I mean, and it's not just the basketball team, but pretty much in general, all the students, you talk to them outside of playing the game or whatever, and it's always yes sir, no sir, yes ma'am, no ma'am. They're very well adjusted, it seems like.
Well, we're always talking to our kids about, athletics in general, teach you about life. You got to deal with the losses. You got to be able to be humble enough to handle the wins. But, it's how you handle yourself. It's how you act, in the class and away from the court, because you're representing the program. And, we've been very fortunate to have great kids. And if they didn't buy into the system, then they take care of themselves.
Sure.
But every year, these kids, they come and work hard in the off season. They're there in the summer. I don't think people realize the time that it takes. And I mean, I love what I do, but if you go back and for the parents of the kids, they know the sacrifice the kids make, because it does. It's time consuming if you're going to be successful.
Sure. And let me ask you this: when you started out in coaching, was it? I would imagine now, because like you've built this resume now, you've got a well-established, successful basketball program year in, year out. But when you first started taking over the head coaching roles, was there people that took a little bit more time to buy into what you were preaching at that time, or did it come pretty easy then too?
Well, like I said, Don Alsop was our athletic director at the time, and I think Greg Spradlin was a principal, but they stood behind me. But I told them, when we started the whole thing, it's going to take 4 years. You got to have a cycle of kids that come all the way up, freshmen through seniors. And I said that fourth year we should start seeing results. And we made the state tournament that first time, I think, in 1999. And, we pretty well have been a staple there ever since. And,
sure.
We've missed out a couple of years, but I think we've been there 12 straight years now. And we were fortunate enough to win 3 state titles. But basketball is a tough sport to win titles in, because, you've got to go road them a week in Albuquerque. I think it's such an advantage when you have the metro schools there that get to sleep in their bed every night. And, you have to be really focused. You could have some luck. And, we finally were able to do that in 2009, and then do it again in 10 and 14. But, with me, I think we should have won a couple more.
Sure.
But, that's just a coach in me. But I also know the ones that we did win, there was a break or two that went our way that, we were, you got to be a little bit lucky, a little bit fortunate to win them. But
sure,
they're not easy. It's not one of those deals that, you get home field or home court advantage, and, you that first round playoff game, then you're going to go to the pit, and, and sometimes you go against those northern teams with the big crowds, and all it's tough.
Sure, absolutely. And then when you get young teams, then you've got to deal with the awe factor. They're playing in the pit. And, it's a lot bigger than the Coyote Gym, So, I mean, now the veterans, the seniors, they've been there. They've done that. They act like they've been there before. But some of the young players, you got that extra factor and extra variable in there you got to work in, saying, all right, the old Hoosiers bit that where, you got to measure the same size as the one in the Hickory Gym, same kind of deal.
And that's the thing about high school, certainly with public schools, we don't get to recruit our athletes. It's not like college where if we need a post, we go get one or whatever. We take what we're dealt. It's like this team this year. We basically have 3 seniors in the ball club that are playing. We're decently young, but they've had a pretty good year so far. But you're always wondering how they're going to handle the bright lights when the moment comes. And so far it's been good, but like you said, the pit's a different beast.
Sure. Let me ask you this: what's been some of the differences between the teams that won state titles versus the teams that either got close or didn't? What is there any one thing or something you could point that's different between the state title teams versus? I mean, we all know every team's different every year, but what's been probably one? Is there an X factor or something that was different with those teams?
I don't know. I think of course, like they've always told me, the 3 T's of coaching are talent, talent, and talent. You've got to have that, and we all 3 teams that won it were that way. But I'm not saying that we didn't have another team or 2 that weren't just as good. Chemistry's a big thing.
Sure.
That team in 14 was probably one of the best chemistry teams I've ever had. They go 29-1, and really no one ever came within double figures of them. The game we lost, Carlsbad, it was like a 12-point game, and then no one else ever came within double figures of us, and that's kind of unheard of.
Sure.
But they had such great chemistry and, played so well together that, it's just one of those deals that you try to stay out of the way and not mess them up.
Right. And I imagine with some teams, probably with teams like that too, where, if you're winning all those games, sometimes the loss isn't a bad thing. It's kind of a wake-up call that prevent that overconfidence or that automatic win kind of mentality.
Well, and that's what people, they talked about that team. Do you regret not going undefeated? But I think that night down in Carlsbad was a wake up call. We were like 12-0, and I think that we thought we couldn't be beat, and we got beat, and we didn't do it again. We had a long talk at that in the locker room, and Carlsbad came up 3 weeks later, and we beat them by 25. So, I mean, sometimes you just got to focus back in, and that's kind of what we've done this year. We're 9-1, but the one game we lost at Centennial, we'd already beat Centennial the week before pretty handily, and then we go down there, we weren't quite focused, and we learned a lesson, and hopefully we don't have any more of those.
Sure. Do you have to over the years when you coach, and I mean, do you have to coach on the fly, so to speak? And what I mean by that is, certain people respond to different things. Do you have to adjust your coaching style each year depending on how that team responds versus, or is it, this is the program, this is the rules for success?
Well, I think that the program stays the same. We try to push the ball, we try to do the same things, but there's years when we have more size. I mean, you've got to, with coaching, you got to adjust to your level of, your strengths. So, I mean, it changes a little bit, but for the most part, the basics that we do, we're going to press, we're going to come running with you, we're going to push the ball up the court. Those things really never change. And, and as far as the coaching, and, you've got to handle every individual a little bit differently. Everyone's got their own personality. And, like, Brian knows dealing with kids every day, whether in the office or they're out in the gym.
Sure.
Everyone's different.
Sure. Well, I think probably I would guess one of the coolest parts of your job is seeing the success stories. But then, seeing those kids that, were on the team, and now you look, 10 years later or whatever, and you say, hey, look, these people are doing well as adults and things like that. Do you get a lot of former players come and visit and get to hear their success stories?
Yeah, we usually see them. We played, this year over Thanksgiving, weekend, and I saw some former players that came in. Usually during the Christmas break. This time, unfortunately, with the snow and all, we didn't get to play the popcorn.
Yeah.
Usually that's when I see them. But I keep up with them. I'll talk to them on the phone or get emails or texts from them. And, they'll tell me how they're doing. Last year, a young man brought his family back. He lives in Arizona now. Introduced me to his wife and kids, and, he's doing well out there in business. And, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Sure.
Because, we're always, talking about that aspect. We want to be successful in life. There's not many of them going to go on and play college athletics. We've had a few.
Sure.
I think I've had 5 or 6 D1 players, and I've had a few more at the lower levels. But, it's probably a very, very small percentage that have went on to play college ball, and I'm proud of those guys. But it's more important, I think, what the guys do with their lives and all. And, I'm very proud of, the kids that have really done well.
Yeah, there's, and for those that don't know, the head football coach of Artesia, Coach Cooper Henderson, also won these same honors for football. But the common thread you're seeing here is two coaches that understand there's more than what's going on the basketball court. You're not teaching them the X's and O's of basketball. I mean, you are, but that's not the main goal. At the end of the day, if your team goes 0 and whatever, but they come out, understanding teamwork and leadership skills and all the other side benefits of playing basketball, then you could still call it a successful season.
Oh yeah, Coach Henderson, got a great program down there. Everyone knows Artesia football, but he's probably a better man than he is a coach. He really, he emphasizes, you can just tell the way he carries himself, the way his kids carry themselves, and that's what it's about. And I think they were saying in that press release that this is the first year that 2 coaches from New Mexico had won it the same year.
Yeah.
So it's an honor to be even mentioned with him. And I think it's only I think we're the 5th and 6th coaches to ever receive it from New Mexico, and it's humbling in the aspect. You think of all the great coaches that have coached in the state of New Mexico, football and basketball. So, it's a great honor.
Absolutely. And by the way, the basketball team shares many of those same traits as that Artesia football team, by the way. So, what do they give you, a plaque or trophy? What's the, there's got to be some kind of recognition.
I'm not really sure. They haven't given me a lot of details.
A car or something, maybe?
That would be all right. But I kind of doubt
that.
But I think they're going to recognize us at the coaches clinic in July, the state coaches clinic. But I'm not sure if there's anything else or what goes with it. Like I said, this is all new to me.
Sure. Well, enjoy the ride. This should be a lot of fun, and definitely have earned it. That's for sure. So, let's talk a little bit about this year's team. I mean, we're getting into the meat of the season now. Once kind of the new year hits, that's when it gets kind of fast and furious here as far as play goes. What do you like about this year's team right now? What are the things they're doing well?
Yeah, they just bring it every day. Kind of our, what we hang our hat on is the kids are hard workers and they're aggressive, and we're getting better about executing. We're not turning the ball over like we did early in the season. We've got a big game tonight with Permian at 7:00. We go to Clovis tomorrow night. Then we get a rematch with Centennial. We got a game scheduled with them that wasn't originally on the schedule for next Tuesday night. That will be at 5:30, right before Coach Carpenter and the girls play Clovis at 7. But we've played them twice. This is kind of the rubber match, and we want everyone out to support us and see if we can make up for that one. We're still trying to make up some games. We lost the 3 games there in the Poke Horn that we weren't able to play, so we've made up one of them. But truth of the matter is, it's hard to get people to come and play us, or even for us to go play them.
Sure.
They kind of sidestep us, and I mean that's kind of a nice thing, but it's also a bad thing because we'd like to make those games up and play. And the way I kind of see that mentality is, if you want to be the best, you gotta beat the best. So, and that's kind of what we've approached it as, and with the people we schedule.
Well, there's another common thread there where we talk about the teams that are kind of steering clear of the Coyotes not wanting to play. But I know your philosophy and Coach Henderson, the other winner we're talking about here, the philosophy is get the best teams on the schedule. Even if it murders you in the regular season, it's going to make you a better team in the playoffs. And just saying that common thread might be one other factor leading to the honors you guys have gotten here.
Well, I think, Coach Byrd can, from his point of the radio, I'm going to let him do a little talking about them because he sees them from a different perspective every night.
Sure.
Well, one of the things that, like Coach has kind of talked about, haven't looked at this team this year. I don't know that it's the most talented team that Coach has probably ever had. When you start looking at the teams, especially the state title teams from 09, 10, and 14. But, just these kids, like Coach says, they play hard. They do what's asked of them. Whatever the role happens to be. I mean, they don't complain about, doing
the dirty work, so to speak.
I'm not getting enough shots or those types of things, bunch of unselfish kids, and they, like Coach said, they play hard, from the start to the finish. I mean, and, for me personally, having kind of a personal relationship with a lot of the kids, it's fun to watch them go out there and compete.
Sure.
And really kind of get after it. And, there's not a better group, in my opinion, in the state as far as, representing our school and, what we're about at Roswell High School.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and it goes back, and I want to mention my assistants. Certainly, Coach Dude Barola. He's been with me. I think this is the 8th or 9th year now that we've been together. He does a great job. Certainly, the offensive part of it. I handle a lot of the defense on it, and his younger brother Chris Barola does a good job with the JV, and then we have Coach Davis. It's new this year with the freshmen. So I mean, again, it takes a staff to get where we're at. It's not just me. Those guys put in endless hours of work as well, and I've been an assistant, in the past, and, I know sometimes that you're kind of the unsung guy, but I just want to mention those guys because, they work hard, and, I think that, I've had some former, assistants going to be head coaches and make good head coaches, and I think that these guys, when they get their opportunity, will too.
They talk about like the NFL and the coaching trees, and this one was under, seeing all these guys could be like, well, he's under the Brit Cooper tree.
Right.
Good deal. All right, I got one more philosophical question because it just came in here real quick, and then we'll talk a little bit about, let's preview tonight's game real quick before we wrap up. But the goofy philosophical question is, we were talking about earlier, you said talent, but let me give you what would you rather have, okay? A team full of talented players that weren't really getting the team concept, or a team full of maybe average players that are much more team oriented? What's the preferred if you had to pick one, and
I
why?
like the talented ones that have the same the work philosophy, but sometimes that doesn't happen. But I'll take the average kid any day of the week. that just gets out there and works hard and gets better, because, sometimes kids get to thinking they're as good as they can be and they don't work at it. So, I mean, that would be my philosophy.
Sure.
I mean, I like the blue collar, hard nosed kids.
Absolutely. And it's, I guess as a coach, you understand there's things you can teach, things you can't teach. Talent, I guess at the end of the day, you really can't, but you can definitely enhance talent to where maybe the talent level isn't God gifted, but you can at least make it so smarts is a talent too. And if you can add that in
we're
there.
always talking about, you got to know your role. You got to
Sure.
know what you do best. Whether you're a defender, or you score, whatever it might be, everyone's got to know their role. There's a reason sometimes you're left wide open. You can't shoot. There's a reason that they're leaving you there.
They're not going to guard you.
Your nickname's Brit.
That's what we're always emphasizing. Know your role, and and I'm always asking every team, how do you want to be remembered? You don't want to be the one that lets people down,
Sure.
or let the community down or your school down. And that's not only, on the court, it's off the court as well. Because
Sure.
we're telling you, you got to, keep yourself at a high standard.
Sure. All right, let's preview tonight's game. Of course, everyone come out to the gym, 7 o'clock tonight for tip-off. Permian Panthers out of Odessa. We know their football team's pretty good. I've seen them a couple times. What's the basketball team look like?
We played them last year, and we were fortunate enough to beat them. They're really athletic. They're athletic this year. I've seen them on film. They mob, so that kind of shows that they're a pretty good team.
Gotcha.
They've got a new head coach this year, but what I've seen, we'll have our hands full. But it's good to see somebody different. But they're going to come in here. They're not one of the teams that might be in awe of us, because they don't know who we are.
Sure.
They just show up at the gym, and they're here to play. And they play us tonight, and they play Lovington tomorrow afternoon. So they're making a trek over to New Mexico to get better, and hopefully it'll be a case that with their athleticism and all, that we get better.
Do you look at this as like a measuring stick game for the team? Is like this is a see where the progress is at this team at this point?
I think
playing?
so. It's a team that we haven't seen before. We haven't seen a team probably this year that's as athletic as Permian. So hopefully everyone will come out and support them. And I'm always we had a big crowd out Tuesday night when we beat Carlsbad, and the people really need to support these kids. They work hard, and they're enjoyable to watch. So I think we got a lot of loyal fans, but we'd invite everyone to come out if you haven't seen a game and watch them.
Absolutely, yeah, it's fun. Every time you go to the Coyote Den watch a game, it's a lot of fun, action-packed. Not a doubleheader tonight, but you're going to see a great game. And then so come out, and then I guess Tuesday will be the next home game for both teams, so come out for that too.
Right.
Good deal. Any last words, Brian? Anything you want to mention that we didn't get a chance to talk about?
No, I mean, just and I, Coach Cooper, he's a humble guy,
Right.
And he and I, we've already visited, but he knows how I feel about him, and what he means not only to Roswell High, but as a basketball coach, but also as a person, and
Sure.
and the influence that he's had there. The other day we were sitting there, talking a little bit, and he's the second longest tenured person, at Roswell High. We have Madame Markham, who's a French teacher. She's been there since 1988.
Wow.
And Coach has been there since like 93. And so, they're kind of going neck and neck to see who can outlast each other.
Well, actually, it's 1990 when I first got
Oh,
there.
okay, 90, sorry. So he's
short.
This is my 26 year at Roswell High, and, I've been in education 29 total. So, yeah, I don't know.
So
you wonder about that longevity, but, I've enjoyed it.
So when you think you want to coach another, 10 years or so? You got is that even?
That's what we're banking on.
I just take it 1 year at a time. You got to reevaluate after every season. So,
Sure.
I don't know how much longer I'll go, but, when it's time, I'll know. But right now, I really do. I still love it. It doesn't feel like a job. And
Good.
Everyone I've talked to that's retired, they've always said, you'll know.
Right.
When the time comes and when you're tired, you'll step aside. So I guess that's where I'm at.
Well, I don't know. Is there any rules that can he retire from teaching and still coach? Is that still?
Well, that could be an option on the table too.
I guess we'll have to see on that.
Oh, he did say he wanted to raise, by the way. After this,
Yeah.
Coach.
Well,
Lear.
hey, that's. I don't know. I don't know if I can pull the string on that.
Very good. Well, Coach, we'll give you last word here. Anything you want to say, or anything we didn't get a chance to talk about you want to share?
No, I think we about covered. I just, again, I'm humbled by the award, and I appreciate the support I have from the Roswell community. And like I said, hopefully we can go get that 4th state title this year.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, congratulations. We're really happy for you, and I think the whole city here is really really proud of the achievement, and we look forward to cheering on the team tonight and the rest of the year. So appreciate it, Coach.
Thank you.
And congratulations.
Thanks.
And